everyone, I'm Laura Gail Locke. There is a lot of momentum building in downtown Wichita. There's a ton of exciting projects going on, ranging from residential to retail to commercial. So we brought in 3 guests to tell us all about it. Next to me, we have Wichita Mayor Carl Brewer. We also have our Downtown Revitalization Manager, Scott Knable. And then at the end, we have Jeff Floor. He is the president of the Wichita Downtown Development Corporation. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
Well, why don't you start off, Mayor, by giving us an update on what's going on?
Well, we have an awful lot that's going on. As you can see, the orange cones that's going on around the city and the buildings that have been fenced off. You know, as you've been watching St. Francis Street in that particular area there, we have new business that's going in that particular area. But we did finally get the parking area finished over there, which was partly sponsored by the Rotary Club and the Downtown Rotary. And so that is looking really nice, St. Francis Street from that area. And then we have several new businesses that are going in, and lots of construction work that's happening there at Broadway and Douglas with the new hotel, and also with the Kansas Health Foundation and parking garages, and the list goes on and on. We're definitely excited about the new portion of additional expansion that's happening over at Waterwalk with the walkabout area, and also putting in the new fountain there. Hopefully we can have that in by this spring so everyone can come out and have summer concerts or have their lunch out there. And so everything seems to be going really well, and we have a lot of new projects that are happening. And Jeff has been working overtime. In fact, we're trying to move a bedroom over there to his office with all the great things that he's actually doing. So, so Jeff, you want to talk about some of the additional projects that are happening?
Certainly. Well, you know, one of the things that's great has been this working partnership with the city, and Scott has been very much at a part of what's going on. And the mayor's right. I think we spent a lot of time in each other's offices as a kid about having 2 locations downtown. But I mean, it is quite amazing what's happening. I mean, this last year in 11, you know, $60 million in projects were completed. 94 million were started as far as getting started, and will be done in 12. And then this year we've already had another 20 million that have been announced and will be moving forward as well. And it's far-reaching. I mean, you've got residential, you have the retail. You have expansions, you have new construction. In fact, I think one of the fun things is that the mayor mentioned about the expansion of the Kansas Health Foundation, and from Washington to the river, that's going to be our newest building built in 38 years, coming from the ground up. We've had some, you know, remodelings and rehabilitation of buildings, but this is going to be coming out of the dirt, the first one in 38 years. The last one was the Bank of America building. So it's just amazing. I mean, this is just a wonderful time for our city to see such, really, I think, an infusion of the private capital, the public sector getting involved. And my thought is, Mayor, you know, if we're doing this in today's economic environment, what's Wichita going to be like as things really become to take off nationally as well? So it's an exciting time to see all the things that are happening in our downtown right now. And we've had a lot of announcements lately. The Player Piano building, 40 units coming into the market, you know, that Dave Burke is doing. The Zellman's project came on just at the beginning of this year, and that was 9 units that they released in less than 55 days. Our block, we're actually in the Eaton block. We've had 6 new retail businesses open up on the ground floor. Again, just unprecedented amount of activity, but again, it goes back to where the mayor, the city council, this community set forth a really strong plan in Project Downtown. They've got a very strong public investment policy as a city. In fact, we've got other people coming in to see this, to say, how's the city getting the traction that it is during this economic time? And again, you can't, you know, all those things are critical points to be able to see the type of development that we are seeing.
And Mayor, maybe you could talk a little bit about how helpful the downtown plan has been.
Well, it's having a downtown plan has been very, very helpful, but it's added a little bit more work for us because the citizens clearly understand what's going on, so they're tracking these projects, and they're calling in and saying, okay, what's happening now, or what's happening in this particular area. I saw some people over here doing this, and so, which is exciting because that means that that they're watching and they're seeing what's going on, but they also have in their minds a timeline, and you know, are we keeping up with their timeline? They understand the plan. So I think that's been very, very beneficial for us to be able to have something like that because we're doing the things that the citizens are saying these are the things that we want to have and the things that we would like to have. I think one of the biggest challenges that we have is that some of the ladies' department stores that they're asking for, we have been successful in being able to bring them, and they're keeping them on the forefront of our minds and saying we want these shoe stores.
I support that.
Yeah.
So is my wife.
Yeah. In fact, we had someone that was saying, Mayor, we really need a Macy's. We really need a Macy's downtown. We need you to go out and bring a Macy's. Well, okay, we'll work on this. We'll see what we can do. So everyone's watching, and I think it's really been beneficial for us to have an entire plan that the community has given input on, and this is what they're saying that they would like to have, and it gives us something to be able to, or a template to say, okay, this is what they said they're wanting, and we can go out and we can work toward that. And one, they can help us and they can watch and see as we're making progression on this. And it also gives our partners an opportunity to be able to say, okay, these are the marching orders and so that the citizens are giving us. And so we're going and we're doing those things. So it's been very beneficial for us.
That's great. Scott, will you talk a little bit about your role and how you work with Jeff and the city?
Okay, sure. And I'd like to echo the mayor's comments about the plan. I think that was a very strategic move, and the mayor really was at the forefront of making sure that we took that step and had that kind of deliberate, let's step back and think about what it is we want to accomplish in downtown. Number of the priorities that were established up front were the one that I've been spending a lot of my time on is the Douglas Avenue corridor. Where we've last time we talked on this show, we talked about the Douglas Avenue study. We've just recently, yesterday, City Council approved an application for grant funding to do the first phase of that, to put in the transit stops for the Q line and other bus routes along Douglas to really provide for greater transportation choices in downtown. I think some of the other things that we're really focusing on are the Ambassador Hotel, or the Douglas Block is what we're calling it, where the Kansas Health Foundation is. The city's made an investment in a parking garage and an urban park. And we're looking at redevelopment in the former Henry's department store as being a key component of that. Building upon that momentum and looking at how do we grow that expansion into surrounding areas along William Corridor, just immediately south of Douglas, along Broadway, those sorts of things. I think the other really key focus and something that perhaps is maybe a little more of a challenge, but something that we're definitely still working towards, is the Union Station. And that real key component to redevelopment of the downtown and the connection between kind of the two major anchors on the east side of downtown, the Interest Bank Arena, and then the Old Town neighborhood, and making that connection across Douglas. We're looking at doing some pilot projects perhaps in the fall to kind of demonstrate the types of improvements that you could make to the street to really help make that primarily pedestrian connection, because right now it's a little bit difficult to cross that street, especially during rush hour and those sorts of things.
I know you can't get ahead of yourself, but is there anything you can share with us about what possibilities you're maybe looking at with the Union Station building?
I don't know that there's anything firm that we can talk about in that. There obviously have been a number of proposals in the past, and I'm sure there are still people that are looking at that. In terms of the downtown plan and what it suggests as might be the most feasible options for that site would be a mixture of uses: office, retail, hotel, those sorts of redevelopments, and new construction on the site.
Mm-hmm.
Good job, Scott.
Well, Lord, every day that we have more projects coming in, it strengthens the probability that we will see something happen with Union Station. It's a magnificent building. It's positioned, perfectly in our downtown, with Old Town to the north, the arena to the south. We're working right now to make sure that we still have the state historic tax credit program in a way to where it could help facilitate that project, because there are a number of buildings in our downtown that's a very important program that we see continue to be viable for not only our downtown but downtowns and communities across the state. But it's really interesting on just to see all the people that are looking at Wichita right now. There are a lot of inquiries right now from not only local and regional but national of what are opportunities in Wichita, and tell us more about what you see as opportunities in your residential, in your retail, your commercial markets. I mean, we're having conversations about even new commercial buildings, that could have multi-tenants in them. Again, those are all dynamic conversations, and as the mayor has said, Project Downtown has helped us bring predictability to the development aspect of downtown, more so than we've had in the past. And it looks at the economics, and it looks at, when projects come in and we're working with them, we have a clear blueprint that says, this is what we would like to see, and this is how we see your project fitting right into that. In fact, we may even have some things that would further enhance what you might want to do. And that's dynamic for a city to be able to offer that to the private sector. And we constantly are challenging each other to say, how can we do it better? That's the other thing is that we've got, I think, a really strong blueprint in place. The policies are there, but we can always improve those things, and we will learn from different things and make them better. And so I think that's another thing that's really, I think, unique and dynamic to Wichita, is that we are constantly looking at how can we do it, and we challenge people. We meet with them, say, what is it that we could bring to the table even more so that would help in your decision-making process? Because we know in the private sector that there's other cities competing for them. And so we want to make sure that we have that competitive edge. And so we constantly ask that question as well as work on other projects on a daily basis.
Well, that's a really good point, and I know you just met with a bunch of other mayors and the president, and the competition is definitely out there.
That is true, and I think there was a strong message that was sent to myself and the city council members from other mayors and other council members in other states and other cities, and they were asking, well, how are you guys doing the things that you're doing? As City of Wichita was listed in the Booking Institute as #1 in exporting for the country. And so we weren't the only ones that saw this, and so once we arrived in D.C., these other mayors in other cities were asking us, okay, what are you guys doing? And like we would really share with them what we were doing.
Your business.
Exactly. But they're asking, and they made it very clear that they're very serious about growing their communities and their downtown areas, and they're willing to do whatever is necessary. So if there's something that you're doing different than what we're doing, we're going to start doing it. Mm-hmm. And so with that being said, they clearly explained to us that they're going to be very competitive, and they will be coming to the city and looking. And we have had a lot of that going on. I think some of us entertained individuals from Tucson, Arizona, that came here. They wanted to know about our businesses, about our aviation. And we're seeing more and more people, not only, as Jeff was saying, throughout the entire country, but we've had individuals from other countries that have actually came here to the city of Wichita, and we're trying to find out what you're doing, how you're doing it, how you're addressing issues for your city's overall growth, and what new businesses do you have coming in, and even some of them saying, we've been watching you guys. We think we might be interested in doing some investments here, or bringing our businesses here. And so we've been connecting the private sector from other countries to our local businesses that are here, and connecting those two so that they can do those types of things. And so I think the city's headed on the right path, and we just have to keep pushing and recognizing that what we have is what everybody else is wanting. But we are making some headway, and some great things are happening here in the city, and this is our moment, and we just need to capture it.
Absolutely. Maybe Scott and Jeff, you guys could talk a little bit more about some of the projects and exciting things going on. You touched a little bit about residential. Mm-hmm. Could you talk a little bit more about how many more residential units are opening up in downtown? Because I know a lot of people would like to live down there.
Sure. Well, we have when you look at the master plan, one of the things that Lori Volk identified was that about 1,500 units, over the next 5 to 7 years is really the market potential. But really and truly, Lori, I think that's going to hold steady or even grow, because what happens is as we have projects come on, that will help give us more of an opportunity for new restaurants and new services, and so that will just, I think, continue to keep the demand going up as far as residential. But as we've noted, you have several projects that have been announced and recently opened. Again, the Zelman Loft just opened up at the beginning of this year. It's the old Victoria Park, so what we call the Renfro building, the Renfro Hotel. That's 20 units that will be under construction this year, right there on Douglas, right by the Old Mill Tasty Shop, and that will open up around September. Then you have the Player Piano building, again, bringing 40 units on. That will be toward the end of this year, first of next. Again, those are all being lofts. We still have some great condominiums over at Waterwalk. What's good now is that we're actually seeing movement with the condominium market. One of the banks here locally is now really opening up lending for some of those, and so there's Doug Roop and their team have done some great work on getting some of those units sold over in Waterwalk. The Lux, a beautiful project. It's the old Protection 1 building, or the old gas and electric building over on 1st Street. That will actually have 65 units. That's under construction now. Will open up in February of 2013. That's going to be a development actually that really opens up opportunities for families to move into downtown. In fact, some of the rooftops there's 3 different rooftop levels are going to be converted to outdoor terraces. They're going to do a first floor early learning center for children. And that's a development that Dr. Eisner and Michael Ramsey are doing in addition to several others. And so in residential, there's a lot of things that are happening. The great thing is that, our residential is at capacity. That's a great market at least to say what's the demand. And some of our complexes downtown or developments used to have a lease termination fee. Those are now gone because there's waiting lists. They don't have to worry about if a vacancy becomes available because they're being absorbed. And so that's one of those real keystone things that we want to continue to develop in our downtown, because that will feed so many other things.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible progress. And I know a lot of those places have some really cool characteristics and features.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
They do.
Yeah, the downtown plan really is a lot of the residential demand in particular. The analysis focused on the changing demographics of Wichita and the country as a whole, where what is a household really is changing. The number of households that are just a single person or a couple or a single parent with one child, that's the norm, the new norm. That's the majority of the households now. And increasingly, those types of households are seeking an urban living environment, somewhere where they can don't have to perhaps have that second car to commute to a job. One of the persons in the household perhaps will even walk to work. That is increasingly happening all over the country, and a number of cities, even in this region, are seeing that occurring even quicker than we are. And so I think that, and we think that that's going to just continue to occur. The hardest part really is going to be finding, the places to continue this growth, because some of the projects that are happening in terms of the rehabilitation of existing buildings economically, given the programs that are available, that is kind of easier, if you will, from an economic sense. Some of the more difficult projects in terms of new construction are going to be the challenges that we have going forward at figuring out how to make those programs work economically.
Mm-hmm. How will you do that?
Well, a lot of it, quite frankly, in terms of the incentives, are focused on the economics of parking. In a downtown environment, you can't provide parking for vehicles in the same way that you can in others, where you essentially have a surplus of land, and so you can afford to provide excess parking. In a downtown environment, you really have to be very careful with how much parking you provide and strategically locate it so that it's able to serve multiple uses throughout the day, so that it can serve an office use during the day, and then in the evening it can switch over and serve an event space, or perhaps provide support for a nightclub or a restaurant. You also have to provide, and in order to do that, you really have to have a central group who's in charge of providing that parking, and in this case it's the City of Wichita. And we've been doing that program for years, predominantly in Old Town, but we're expanding that program with the Douglas block and taking that approach in that location. We also have done the same thing with the arena, and will be going forward with other projects as well.
And that's where instruments like the loan consortium. We've got 12 local banks, and that's the other thing that's great about our city is that we still have local banks. A lot of cities have lost that, and fortunately we have that as a city, and so they've stepped forward and identified $8 million in assets that they would be available to do mezzanine or gap financing. What's been, people ask me, well, how many deals have they done? I said, well, they haven't done a deal as consortium, but what's happening is that the 12 banks now have such I think a greater understanding of the economics of downtown because of the master plan process, and also developing the loan consortium, that when we start talking about an opportunity, they're taking it off the table and doing it, that's great. I mean, because what will happen is there will be that project that we may need to tap that $8 million or a big piece of that to do that really makes sense to move it forward. So we have that asset while the banks are still stepping forward. And the manager is constantly challenging Scott and myself to say, think outside the box. How do we potentially get these projects moving? How do we move things forward? And the day of just it being X, Y, or Z no longer exists. I mean, you have to be very, I think, creative, and you have to challenge constantly, how do we do things? How do we approach things? I think the new public investment policy and the whole parking strategy is a brilliant one by our city. I mean, we have now on Douglas, where you've got the Ambassador, the expansion of the Kansas Health Foundation, the Henry's department store. If the city had not made the commitment to build the garage, made the commitment to build the additional capacity in the garage beyond the initial user, which was the hotel, the surface lot next to the Kansas Health Foundation would not have been a development site, because they had to have parking. Now that the city made the investment of the garage, they're going to be feeding into that garage, and now we have a surface lot that's a development site. That's what you want. And then they're putting a $9 million private investment on top of that. So that's how you want to see these things occur. And so I think that, and the investment doesn't stop in that block. Because of that block of almost $50 million, now the adjacent blocks are starting to see interest in them. In fact, the city has a key catalyst site just to the south of it, which used to be the old Alice Hotel site. So it's making development in a strategic manner that each project builds toward the next.
Of course, with the new parking garage, I'm sure that a lot of people at the arena will be pleased.
Right, and that's a good point. I mean, that's a perfect example of a garage where at least half of the regular business, if you will, the people who are going to use it the most often, are only going to park there during the day and during the week. Those spaces will be empty if there's a sold-out concert a couple of blocks away. If there are new businesses, which we anticipate will be opening, in that William corridor, that cater to the night business, restaurants, those sorts of things, that parking will be there for those uses as well.
That's really important. And while we're on the subject of transportation, Mayor, I know you guys, the City Council, have had interest from the public about what the city's doing to make it more bicycle friendly, and you guys have been working with staff on that.
Yes, what we're doing is we've been exploring the possibility. We've started putting in some bicycle lanes and giving them their own lane for traffic and things of that nature, and making it a lot easier for them to be able to commute and to be able to get around. And that way, one, they keep telling me it's a lot healthier, but we're still working on that. But yes, we are doing everything we can to possibly to encourage individuals that that downtown's an area that you can go and you can ride your bicycle, your family can ride their bike, and commute. Just get out in the evenings or during the day, or ride to work, or do anything of that nature. So we're really pushing and encouraging individuals to do that. But with all of these other things that we are actually doing, I think it's always important that we can't forget, because it's a full balance of the needs in our downtown area. And we just recently opened up the new Open Door to address those that have some challenges in life, or they're homeless, where it's a one-stop shop for them. And that was just recently opened up. And you really can't talk about downtown without talking about the YMCA and the huge expansion that they're doing there. And because it's almost a block, an entire block.
You're correct.
And so that's very rare that we would have something of that nature that's going in. So it's going to be state of the art, and And it's going to be one of those things that'll benefit all of the hotels and people that are staying over, or whether it be conferences or whatever the case, or conventions, whatever the case may be, where individuals can go and they have some place that they can go work out, and it'll provide all the amenities that they can possibly imagine that would be there.
It's interesting you bring that up, because I was talking to one of the corporate people from the Y the other day, and they were saying it could end up being, the nicest Y in the country. Is that what you're hearing?
Well, I mean, the Y system here is just unbelievable. I mean, when I first moved here almost 4 years ago, I mean, I was amazed. I mean, every Y that you went, that you'd go to, it was a spectacular facility, and it was new. I mean, it was just, and the amenities that each one of them offer. So this new downtown headquarters, their corporate headquarters, is really kind of the crown jewel of the whole system. And, they've done a tremendous job in its design, because the way it's designed, you're going to be able to see the activity within the building from the street. And that's one of the things that you want to do in a downtown is through design is encourage the walkability of your downtown. Have your architecture really, communicate with what's going on the street. It doesn't operate just within the walls and with it's built. And, and important too to this, Orgel, is that we've been talking a lot about downtown, but downtown, what we want to do is create a very strong region. And downtown is a focal point of that region. I mean, but we need to have the healthy markets all around downtown Wichita, whether it's north, south, east, or west. I mean, all those, we want all that to be thriving as a region, because that's where, as a city, comprehensively, we really increase our competitiveness. So the work that GWDC is doing, that REAP is doing, all these different entities, I mean, they're all very important to the overall development of our downtown, but also the community at large. And so, again, I think it's one of those things where people ask me, well, do you think I ought to jump in now? I said, well, you better jump in now. If you're thinking about jumping in, jump in now, because I said it's really and truly, it's just getting better every day. And I think that, as Scott has mentioned, we do have a limited supply of historic buildings in our downtown, and buildings that are available, and that's why you're starting to see parking lots turned into development sites, which we're thrilled about too. But that's why in the master plan process we created the Design and Innovation Center in partnership with the city, is that you have a place to start. You can come in, and we will constantly meet with anybody who wants to look at investing in downtown, whether that be our local developers, regional developers, national. We will talk to you about what's going on, get you information. If we don't have it, we'll seek to get it, because we want to try to get into your hands as a developer the information you need to be able to, again, to make good decisions, sound decisions, and ones that will continue to build upon the synergy that we're seeing in our downtown.
Well, it sounds like that center would be a tremendous resource, and if people are wondering where they can go to get more information, where would you encourage them to visit?
Well, our website, downtownwichita.org, or come by our office at 507 East Douglas. Either way, people can get additional information that way. I know, Scott, you all have avenues as well.
Right.
With your website.
Right. Wichita.gov is always a good source. You can look for Project Downtown on the city's website. There's a lot of information about what we're doing, what we're going to be doing, what has been done. And as Jeff mentioned, I think the Design Innovation Center is really a tremendous resource that is just starting to realize its potential.
And that's, I mean, we mentioned the partnership with the city, but we've had the Knight Foundation that has really helped us as a community in doing the Design Innovation Center, and most recently Westar stepped up to make available, as a partner with Knight, a whole new design internship program where, working with our universities across the state, of getting students in design where they can, as we have conversations, Orgel, about projects, they will be actually drawing what we're talking about. And again, going back to that competitive edge, it's like if a developer can leave with not only the conversation, but then maybe a list, or actually demonstrated illustratively what they might be able to do, that's a different realm of making things possible. So all that's happening through these different partnerships, and it continues to develop.
And I would think that visual part would really get people excited.
Exactly.
Yeah. And Mayor, I know because of all the great community partners, people should be excited, right?
Yes, they should be, and thankful that we have a wonderful community that's giving us a lot of input, and everyone understands the plan, and that's originally what we set this thing out for when we did the Goody Clancy plan, is that all of us knew what was happening, where we wanted to go, and collectively as a community we've been doing that, from the Mr. and Mrs. Jones out in the community to the corporate business to the businessman and the small business right here in the city of Wichita. And even our surrounding communities are saying, because as goes Wichita, so does their other communities. So we have a lot of exciting things, even some things that we're still working on that we, at this point in time, we can't talk about it, but they're very exciting. Don't worry, I'm not.
That means
We're very excited, but we are.
Stay tuned to City 7.
Stay tuned to City 7.
Great things are coming.
Great things are coming. We want you to keep sending us the emails, keep giving us the phone calls, letting us know what you want, what you'd like to see, and if there's something that you're curious about, give us a call. Ask us, what's going on, or why do you have those red cones? Communication is the key to this and to all of the success that we actually have. And so, as I said, I thank everyone for everything that they're doing and their input. And let's keep talking. And as you said, stay tuned to City 7.
That's where news breaks, right?
Exactly.
No, it's been a lot of fun to hear about all these exciting things going on. I appreciate you guys taking time out of your day to be here.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you for watching this edition of Local Loop.